Hi, I'm Nancy Tully, and I'm with Jewish Federation of St. Louis. And you are here because you want to learn about JBuzzSTL, our new platform that we have, community platform that we have that has been created for us by Magnify. And I'm going to introduce Betsy Sinclair, who I learned today has secret identity. She came up a different name that I wasn't used to. But Betsy is a professor of political science from Washington University, and she is also co-founder of Magnify, which is a platform to bring communities together. And that's what she's doing for our Jewish community with JBuzzSTL. We also have Samantha March, on the phone. Sam runs our JBuzzSTL from the Federation side with Betsy. And so if you had any kind of questions, you could certainly get in touch with Sam. So I'm going to turn it over to Betsy now. And I thank you for joining us. And I do ask one more favor. Betsy's going to ask this at the end as well. And that is sign up and have your friends sign up so they can join our community. The larger our community, the more projects we have, the more engagement we have, and the more we can build a vibrant Jewish community. So I appreciate you stopping by, and get your friends to sign up as well. Betsy, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today. So my proposal for today's meeting is that I will go through a couple of the features of JBuzzSTL. And then I'd like to basically open this up for questions and individual tutoring. I want to assure you that any questions that you have today, I'm going to stay on and make sure I can answer. And if I can't answer them today and you need to go somewhere else, you need to have another meeting, that's fine. I would then be delighted to schedule a time to meet with you at a later date at your convenience. So I'm one of the co-founders of Magnify, which is a company that builds private communities for social good. And it's our tremendous privilege to be able to build JBuzzSTL for you. This is a project that is growing. So if you notice things or have suggestions of ways that we can make this easier or more fun for you to participate, we also welcome those suggestions, and you shouldn't hesitate to reach out. With no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of actions. I'm going to ask you each to sign up. I'm going to ask you each to edit your profile. To then, from after editing your profile, to join a project and to follow an organization. And after we've taken those actions, we'll then move forwards with the questions section of this presentation. So I think before we can do anything at all, I need to send you to our website. So if you go to jbuzzstl.com, you can find the website. Now, you should know that one thing that's important about JBuzzSTL is it's more than just a website. It's also a really cool mobile app. You can download it on your phones from the Google Play Store or from the Apple Store. And I would encourage you to do that as well. And I'm happy to take questions about how to use the mobile app as well as how to use the website. But all right, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So JBuzzSTL has a couple of really terrific features, and one of which is that it's this idea of building a private community. So it's really different from something like Facebook or Instagram in the sense that the goal of JBuzzSTL is to build community. So JBuzzSTL will never sell you ads. It's never going to sell your data. And it's really designed to build a community around taking shared actions together. So as such, you can think of it as something like a dynamic community calendar. So I'm going to ask each of you, if you haven't already, to click the green Sign Up Now button. Now, when you click Sign Up Now, you'll see that there are a number of fields that you need to fill out, and those fields are all in red. These are fields that we will save, and that we're saving a very limited amount of personal data. So we're going to ask you to enter your first name, last name, email address, and zip code. This is the only information that we will save about you in our database. We have a strong password policy, which requires a strong password that's a minimum of 8 characters and no more than 20, and you'll enter it twice. The passwords must match. You then need to guarantee that you're at least 13 years old. That's a federal requirement for social media sites. Click the reCAPTCHA that you're not a robot and sign up. Now, once you've signed up, you'll need to validate your account. You can have us send you a text message with a validation code. An alternative strategy is that you can then ask us to send you a confirmation email. Now, just to say, your email spam filter may catch that email. You may find it easier to send yourself a text message. But once you've signed up, you'll end up at the home screen. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. For those of you who've already made an account, you should be able to log in. I'm going to sign in as Betsy Sinclair here. And off we go. All right, and I'm on the home screen. I'm going to pause for a moment and ask if anyone has any questions in just the sign up process. You should feel free to unmute and ask questions as we go. Okay. All right, terrific. So I'll give you a minute and I'll chat for a minute while I'm waiting for you to make sure that you can sign up or log in. So hopefully that's happening right now, that you're able to do that. And here we go. All right, so once you've logged in, you end up on this home page. It'll tell you a little bit about how to use JBuzzSTL, and you'll see a bunch of really interesting opportunities. The projects that you see are going to be based upon your interests and the organizations that you follow. And these are going to be events that are happening. They're going to be opportunities for discussion. They're going to be all these really interesting things that are happening across the community at large. And I think it's a really exciting thing to be able to see, wow, there's just like a lot that we think you might be interested in. I'm going to ask each of you as you log in to then click on your icon in the top right corner. That will be where your initials are. If you click on that icon where your initials are, you'll then be able to go to your profile. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to give you the opportunity to edit your profile. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if anyone has questions about how to find their profile. Yes, and Judy, you can absolutely ask questions there and in the chat box as well. I'm really delighted to be able to answer questions in the chat as well. Editing an org profile is going to have one slight difference, which is that you can then describe an org profile. But yes, basically are in the same process as an org profile. So I go back to sharing my screen. I'm going to edit my profile. So here, suppose I click edit profile and I'm going to choose some new interests. Well, suppose I am interested in projects relating to Israel. Well, I can click that icon and choose it. I could also say I'm interested in projects relating to women's rights or opportunities to volunteer. Once I've chosen those interests, I can pick any of the things that I'm interested in. I can press save. And that will let me change my profile a little bit. I can add a biography if I want to. So I can say I love building community, mother of 3. I can add a picture, so I can edit my image to add a profile image. In general, this is a really neat way to be able to add a little description. So folks, as you join projects, will know a little bit about who you are. You should only do this if you feel comfortable, but I should note that only folks who have logged in and we validated their account have access to JBuzzSTL. And then I press save. All right, so now I have a little bit on my profile. Now I've created some projects and I'm also following projects, but you should note that my follow list is set to private. Anyone, whenever they log in, their follow list is automatically set as the default to private. So if I wanted my friends to be able to see what projects I was following, I would authorize that in my profile to let other people see what I'm interested in. I think the first step here is to be able to log in and to make a profile. I'm going to pause and I'm going to say, does anyone have any questions on how to edit their profile? Okay. All right. Well, then we're at step 2 already. Once you've edited a profile, and you've picked interests, I'm going to send us back to the home page. On the home page, remember I told you that we have an algorithm that's going to list projects based upon your interests and the organizations you follow. I'm going to show you how to follow an organization in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about how to follow a project. Now, I have some things that I think will be interesting based upon, your zip code and your interests and, what's coming up next. You can also search for search for things. So I want to see, I'm going to recommend a project that we all share now. And I'm going to put it in chat because I'm going to ask each of you to join. So this is a project I think is a really nice one for JBuzzSTL. It's not affiliated with a particular organization. It's actually a project created by Sarah Levinson's twin sister. And she created this project. She doesn't live close to Sarah, but she misses her very, very much. And I think this is a really nice project to talk about, possibly how we could share Shabbat across the country. So Sarah, imagine how do you share Shabbat in your family? Could you take a picture? Could you light a candles in your house? Could you take a picture? What does that mean for your family? Well, if you join this project, that means you're going to follow it. And as you follow it, you could then have access to the comment section and add some comments. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and go back and look at this project because I think this is a really neat example of the power of JBuzzSTL and the ability to connect community. So Rachel has joined. She created this project originally, and a number of folks have actually participated. The action that we're asking folks to take is to post a photo of your Shabbat tradition or what it means for you. There's some admin actions here. My screen's going to look a little different than yours because I'm a site admin. And there's this long comment section. You can like comments, and you could also add a photo. So to add a photo, you would click this little icon here at the bottom that looks like mountains climbing. That would let you add a photo in the comment section. You can mention someone in this project by using the @ symbol, which is the symbol above the 2 on your keyboard. So I could say @Rachel, can you post a photo? Now that'll send a message to Rachel asking her to do just this. I think this is a really neat thing to do. You'll note that as I followed this project, my name was added to this list. Once I've taken the action, my icon changes from white to green, and I earn some points. I get a little bit of confetti. If I want to take my name off the project, I can click unfollow. I'm going to refresh my page and see if any of you have added a comment to this project because I think this is such a neat project. All right, nobody has yet, but maybe one of you could like one of my comments. Oh, Erin, you just completed the project, so thank you. That's fantastic. I think that's a really neat thing that we can each do. It's a neat way to think about using this application to build community. So what we're very much hoping each of you will do for each of the projects that you're following where you have some interest, some will have links that will take you to websites where you can RSVP for events. And others will have, contact information where you send an email to an organizer. And some will ask you for something very simple, like to add a photo. And I think this is a really neat way to think about building community digital infrastructure in a way that's supportive and protective of our community. So there are a couple of other features. You can share a project on Facebook or Twitter. You can share by email. You could copy the link. You could figure out what organization had created this project by clicking the organization and seeing the full set of organizational projects. And of course, we've tagged projects in terms of, what categories they fall under. So you can have some idea of oh, does this match my interest? So I want to pause now and I want to take questions. Can anybody add a photo for how they share Shabbat? You're pretty quiet, team, and I hope that means you're doing a very good job.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anyone's asking any questions. I'm not sure if everyone is actually logged on while they're on Zoom. That may be, for this particular group, that may be a challenge. They may not be able to while they're here. So Anyway, that's,
Okay.
I'm just kind of saying,
Judy, that's a really great point. So thank you so much. So for those of you who are trying to toggle between two screens, that can be quite frustrating and annoying. So I would say make sure that at the end of this call, you have my contact information so that you could call me or you could email me if you're stuck. And this isn't the only opportunity that we have to do training. This is just one of many. So if you have an additional question, I'm sort of happy to answer it. So enjoy following along.
so, and also since you mentioned that, let's make sure that you send me how you would like for them to contact you, and I can forward it to everyone that's on the Zoom today so that they can, if they need to ask a question directly, they can email to you.
Great. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to put it in chat right now. So the quickest way to get in touch with us is via email. So if you send an email to team@magnifyyourvoice.com, our team monitors that email account 24/7. So you should get a response nearly immediately. But I'm also happy to have you call me, and I'll put my phone number here. There you go, or text if you're a text generation. All right, so with this idea of then having this this project then to follow, I'm going to take us back to that page and let you see it again. So here is the project to share Shibata across the country. I'm going to go back to the home page and let you take a look. So there are lots of things that come up here, lots of really cool projects. This little blue icon, the checkbox at the bottom of a project, means, oh, I've already joined that one. I haven't joined this one. If I haven't joined this one, I can click the follow project to be able to follow and learn a little bit more. I can also just click anywhere on the project, which doesn't add me as a follower, but lets me see the content of that project without adding my name. As I scroll down, I can see some projects have specific organizations associated with them. So I'm going to think Nishma here has one that is an event coming up. Here's the one for today that we're in right now to learn to use the new online JBuzzSTL app. So I'm going to click on this because I want to show you a couple of really cool things about this event. So here, if I wanted to reply to RSVP, if I click this link, it will automatically check the box. So that gives me a way. I don't have to go back to the page. I'm redirected to the Covenant Place link where I can go ahead and RSVP, which is really, really terrific. I can see how to contact Susan. So I could click her email address, which would open up my email account to be able to let me ask her a question. I could click her phone number, which in the mobile app would then would call her to let me ask her a question. And I could go ahead and download this event to my calendar by clicking the calendar icon. And whatever calendar you're using then, if you're using a Google Calendar, if you're using an Outlook calendar, it will download the calendar notification. Now, in the previous version of JBuzzSTL was, of course, the Jewish in St. Louis Community Calendar. And our hope is that we've updated this version of the calendar to be a more dynamic experience for you. But I want to show you one of the really neat things about the calendar. So I'm going to click the calendar tab here because the calendar is a way for us to see all of the events in one place. So here, all the events right now are listed, including the ones I haven't RSVP'd for or I'm not following. But if I wanted just to show the ones that I'm interested in, well, I can toggle this with this little toggle box at the top to say, all right, these are the ones I'm following. Here's everything on the calendar. And I can see that there's contrast in these two colors to be able to then notice, okay, some things are coming up that I really like. I can look by month and day. I can also look by agenda to see what's coming up. And I can also just go ahead and click here to say, all right, so maybe I want to go, to Soccer Madness. Well, I can click on Soccer Madness and learn a little bit more about that event just by clicking on the calendar. And so that's I think a really neat thing to see how I can understand the calendar coming up. I could click on an event to see who else is following that event, might give me some sense too about who has already expressed interest in going. For organizations, there are a whole bunch of organizations here on this page that are just, I think it's just an incredible diverse array of organizations that form, this family of federation partners. And so here, I think that, there's just so many things that are happening. I'm going to pick Crown Center here just to go ahead and show you an example, but this operates in much the same way that we just talked about with projects. You can follow a project, you can follow an organization. So here I'm going to click on Crown Center to follow along with the Crown Center organization. I can learn a little bit more about Crown Center, and I can see all of the Crown Center projects. Well, here there's a couple of Crown Center projects that are coming up. I could follow events that are coming up for Crown Center. And this gives me a way to make, I think of the big organizations small. So, you may not think of yourself as participating in the full set of organizations that support federation, but there are probably some where you think, okay, well, that's where my friends are, or those are the organizations where I feel most supported. And so what we want to do is create some space there that's specific for those kinds of affinity groups also. And I can see, well, who's following along for this organization? I can see a whole bunch of people. And as each time as you participate in an organization, we'll give you some points. We'll help track your volunteer hours. And then we'll list them here. So suppose I see, Sarah's made it to being a date. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about Sarah. Well, I can click on Sarah and I can learn a little bit about Sarah's profile and what she's interested in. And I can see what projects Sarah is following. And that's, I think, a really neat thing to think about. Well, where's Sarah involved here? I know Sarah, maybe I'll get some good ideas about what I might like to participate in as well. And I think this is a really neat thing to think about. All right, so I can see the big organization. I can also see the small one. For each of the organizations, as organizations come on board, there are going to be some organizations that have private activities, and they're not going to make all of their projects public. But for organizations that are publicly followable, you can add them to your follow list, and then you'll get updates as those organizations have new projects as well. And what's really cool is you can get push notifications as those projects move forwards. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. So far, nobody's had a question, but it's possible that one of you will have a question. There's a couple. So let me answer a couple of organization questions. So Susan asked, if you follow an organization, do you get email notifications when the organization adds a new project, or do you need to log into JBuzzSTL? You don't need to log into JBuzzSTL. So Susan, if you've downloaded the mobile app, we'll send you a push notification when the organization adds a new project. If you are following the organization and you haven't edited your email settings, we will then send you an email. We batch the emails so that if you're following multiple organizations, or if your organization has multiple new projects in a day, we'll then send one email at the end of the day, just to help people manage their email traffic. And Erin, to add your organization, you click the new organization button. And I would be happy to help you with that, maybe at the end of this call, to also talk about how one of the things I think is a really interesting possibility is just to help be more efficient with your staff time. We're happy to automatically import projects from your calendar into your pending state. And then you could decide to approve or not projects that are then visible to your organization, just to try to save time. But that's another, I think, cool feature of this calendar, is trying to be really thoughtful with how we're using staff time to share calendar content and events. Okay, so I'm gonna, does anyone have any other questions they would like to ask? Okay, I'm going back to the screen share. Okay, so there are a bunch of organizations that you can see here. And I want to talk to you about one other feature that I'm really hoping that many of you will use, and that's the new project button. Now, you may not think that you have a project, and it's probably the case that for most people, you're going to participate in this page by RSVPing for events or by doing activities like sharing Shabbat. But I think it's a really neat idea to think sometimes you might have a really cool idea for an activity the community could do. And especially for those of you who are feeling lonely, sometimes it's a really neat idea to think about how to find community in a digital space. I think one of the things that we have seen as social scientists, as we document people's participation in conventional social media, is it tends to make people unhappy. And the reason that we've built JBuzzSTL in such a different way is because we're actually trying really hard to make people happy. And what we know is people are happy when they take action. and they're happy when they take action with other people, and they're happy when they get praised for having taken that action. So with that in mind, I hope that at a minimum, you will make comments or like the comments of others, because that's a really great way that you can help build community. It's just by taking these small actions. But if you're having a moment where you feel brave and you think, I am going to propose an action that we could do, you click the new project button. Now, the new project button doesn't have to be, you don't have to be hosting an event. You could propose sharing pictures of your pets. You could propose sharing recipes. You could share a favorite book. There are interesting ways to think about proposing a community activity. I would suggest something that would be kind of a great project would be for us to take, to have one of you to propose a project that was to share a picture of your mezuzah. But with no further ado, I'm going to show you how to create a new project. So you click the blue new project button. You choose a photo for your project, but it's not required. So if you don't have a photo, we will find one for you. If it's an event, you click that it's an event. If the project doesn't have a specific address, you identify it as a national project. If it does have a specific address, you put it in this field in red. Now, it's worth knowing that users don't see this address. So if you want people to come to a specific address, you'll have to put it in the description. Tag your organization. And if you tag your organization, you can tell us how much volunteer credit should users cut, which we will toggle in hours that I will show you in a moment for each organization. A short name, because we're basically building a small website for your idea, and an admin email. So if someone else is making this project, but you think the email should, for example, go to Sam, then put Sam's email address in there. You pick categories, add a title, a description. You can pick a contact person and a task, and the task will float. Once you've filled out all that information, you click Create Project, and your projects will go into a pending state. And after they're pending, then Sam or Mallory will check to make sure, just like they did with the old calendar, that there isn't something else going on that has those same features or is on that same date or has the same idea or has a typo. And then they'll push it forwards into the page. And then you'll be able to share it. You can share it with other people. You can share it on Facebook. You can share it via email. It's a really neat way to think about how to build community. So I'm hoping that some of you will take a moment and take an action to propose a new project. With that, I'm going to stop here for a moment. And I would like now to answer as many questions as possible. And for those of you who have mobile app questions, I would like to also answer those if you've had the opportunity to download them. If you haven't yet, there are just a couple of features I would like to say. So one is to note the app is free. So there's no fee for downloading the app. There's no fee for using the app. There are no within app purchases. And I think that's a really important thing to remember as you share it. The second is that the app has a really cool set of features whereby we recommend projects. So we say some really cool art, like that was designed by Federation, for example, the bee. Projects that are buzzing now are ones where there's been recent excitement, for example. So the landing page, I think, is really fun. All right, does anyone have any questions?
I'm not seeing any at this time.
I don't see any either.
Yeah. Quiet group.
Erin, would you do you have time to stay on at the end so I can help you onboard your organization? Okay, great. All right, terrific. Well, for the rest of you, I want to reiterate, I'm really happy to be available to you to answer your questions as they come up, and I know Sam is too. So we would encourage you to please reach out to us. I'm happy to do one-on-one logins if you're having any trouble logging in or downloading the app, and I would encourage you to reach out to me and just to feel comfortable with your questions. So please be in touch.
Thank you so much. It was a bunch of information and it may take a moment to process and to watch the video again to make sure and take notes and then, figure out a few things so that, sometimes these things you really do have to actually experience the process in order to ask the questions. So, they might have to go and, give these things a try and then they can contact you.
Yes, please.
And that is absolutely the way I think people are going to use this the most. And Sam and I were talking, I'm sorry, while you were talking, Betsy, because we've been through this once or twice before, but some of the things we were thinking about projects that Federation will be putting up over the next several weeks. As everybody on this call probably knows, Federation is 120 years old this year and into next. And so we're going to probably put up a project that says, tell us about your history with Federation, which will hopefully get the whole community excited. So that is one. Obviously, Rosh Hashanah coming up, we would like to see pictures and maybe recipes or things like that. So use it. This has been a gift that was given to the Jewish community, a grant, and now Federation is very proud to be hosting it and moving it forward. And we want the community to use it as best they can. So when Betsy says she wants to help, she means it. And so does Federation. So reach out anytime. So we're done. I'm going to let you talk with whomever you want. And Judy, thank you very much to Mirowitz Center for hosting us today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And please, it looks like there might be a couple of people popping up that might have questions. So
Yes.
Sharon, go ahead. You're open to talk.
Okay, yes, I do see some differences, of course, between the downloaded version for the app and for the other site. I was unable to find the calendar on the downloaded version. Is it on the mobile app? I'm sorry, am I just not looking right? Or
I'm going to,
I can find it. The layout just seems a bit different, and I kind of miss not seeing the calendar. So maybe it's my error, but I had trouble. It just looks different. When I do it on the app, I'm looking at it right now. I'm signed on both.
That's great, Sharon. That means you're the perfect beta tester. So I'm going to hold my, here, I'm going to turn off my virtual background because otherwise you can't see my phone. So now you see my messy office. And I'm going to show you. So this is the home screen. So events on the calendar are sort of in the middle of the landing page for JBuzzSTL. So if you start at the top, we start with recommended, then nearby, and then.
Well, you know what, maybe that's my problem. I mean, I have an Android phone. I chose what is Buzz, and I see the profile. But maybe I'll download it again. I'm seeing things like Discover and My Project and Leaderboard and Profile.
So it should be on the landing page for events. And I have to say, so all the mobile versions are different than the website version.
Right,
and
the website, I'm finding everything fine.
Okay,
Just
well,
the
that's
mobile
good.
Yeah.
That's perfect. One of the things that was surprising to me when I first learned how to write this kind of programming is that the Google application for Android phones and the Apple application for iOS phones and what you would do for a website are three different kinds of programming. They work actually three different languages. So we've written them in three different languages, and then they appear a little differently, sometimes based upon the requirements of those platforms. So for example, Apple is very protective of its users who have any kind of visual impairment. So you must have really high contrast in all your images, which I think is actually a fantastic feature of Apple products. And so our initial round of imagery didn't have enough contrast. So we actually, the first thing we sent them, they rejected because they wanted more contrast. So you'll see the colors are even a little bit different than they are on the website. And that's because we're pushing the high contrast imagery for people who have a harder time seeing things on their phones. But yes, they do look a little bit different.
Yeah, I think that might be it too. And what I might do is I might take it off and download it again and make sure, but I have the Android version.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't have an Android phone with me right now, so I can't show you what it looks
Yeah,
like.
so it might be a little different, but I was able to find everything on the website. So.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Susan, how will you continue to promote this to the community is, I think, a question for Sam. But so I don't know the answer to that question. But I know how many users there. So we're giving Sam a monthly report on total users. We have just under 370 users, I think, as of the first of the month. So that's
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm also happy to speak to that too.
Okay.
We have replaced our bi-weekly newsletter, which used to just be called JBuzz. It's now JBuzzSTL, and the branding reflects this. So they are one and the same and connected to each other. So that goes out every 2 weeks to the entire community. And also, I think out of necessity, people are just going to have to start using it because it is our community calendar now. So it's going to be something I think that just happens naturally as well over time because people used that community calendar a lot. But that's also something that we can continue to talk about. And I know we'll be doing social media on it and things like that. So thank you for asking. Sorry to interrupt you, Betsy. You're doing great. Back to you.